"If you keep this baby, you're dead to us." My father's words echoed through our pristine living room, his face twisted with rage. I instinctively wrapped my arms around my swollen belly, protecting the life growing inside me. At 22, I stood in my childhood home, facing the ultimatum that would change everything. My name is Olivia Parker, and that was the last conversation I had with my parents before they erased me from their lives. The prestigious Parker family couldn't handle the scandal of their unmarried daughter choosing to be a single mother. My ex-boyfriend had disappeared the moment I told him I was pregnant, and my parents expected me to handle the situation quietly, their euphemism for termination. But I couldn't. From the moment I heard my baby's heartbeat, I knew I would choose her over everything else, even if it meant losing my family. "Think about our reputation," my mother pleaded, wringing her hands. "Think about your future, your father's position at the hospital, our standing in the community." Her voice trailed off as she saw the determination in my eyes. "I am thinking about my future," I replied, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "My future is this baby." My father slammed his fist on his mahogany desk. "Then get out. You're no longer a Parker. We'll tell everyone you died in an accident abroad. It's better than the shame you're bringing to this family." I remember walking out of that house, my small suitcase rolling behind me, containing whatever I could quickly pack. The perfectly manicured lawn, the imported flowers in their precise rows, the golden afternoon light catching on the windows. Everything looked the same, but nothing would ever be the same again. My best friend Emma took me in without hesitation. "You can stay as long as you need," she said, helping me settle into her spare room. "Your parents are insane if they think you'll go through this alone." The next few months were a blur of doctor's appointments, job hunting, and trying to build a new life from scratch. I found work as a virtual assistant, something I could do from home while pregnant. Emma's support was unwavering, but the absence of my family felt like a physical ache. The day Lily was born was both the happiest and loneliest day of my life. As I held my daughter for the first time, her tiny fingers wrapping around mine, I knew I'd made the right choice. But part of me still wished my mother was there, that my father would burst through the door with balloons and stuffed animals, proud to be a grandfather. Instead, Emma was my birth partner, holding my hand through every contraction. When she took pictures of Lily's first moments, I couldn't help but think about how these photos would never make it into my family's albums. Through mutual friends, I heard that my parents had indeed told everyone I died in a hiking accident in New Zealand. They even held a small private ceremony, though there was no body to bury. The story spread through our social circles, and soon I started receiving condolence messages from old friends who believed I was dead. I focused on Lily, on building our life together. We moved into a small apartment, and I expanded my virtual assistant business into a successful online management company. Every milestone Lily hit, her first smile, first word, first steps, I documented carefully, creating our own family history to replace the one I lost. Then, 3 years later, Emma burst into my apartment, her face flushed with disbelief. "You won't believe this," she said, thrusting her phone at me. "Your parents are holding a memorial service. A proper one, with a headstone and everything. They're saying it's time to properly lay you to rest now that they've processed their grief." I stared at the invitation on her screen. Sure enough, there it was, a memorial service for Olivia Grace Parker, beloved daughter, taken too soon. The irony was almost laughable. They were literally burying the daughter they'd chosen to declare dead, all to maintain their precious image. "You have to go," Emma said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Show them you're very much alive and thriving." I looked at Lily, playing with her blocks on the floor, her dark curls falling into her eyes that looked just like mine. She was the living proof of the choice I'd made, the reason I'd lost everything and gained something even more precious. "You know what?" I said, a plan forming in my mind. "Maybe it's time to crash my own funeral." Emma's grin widened. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking it's time to show them exactly what they threw away," I replied, picking up Lily and hugging her close. "They wanted to bury their daughter. Let's see how they handle it when she walks right into their carefully planned memorial service." As I put Lily to bed that night, I thought about what I would say, how I would handle seeing my parents again after 3 years of silence. Part of me was nervous, but a stronger part felt ready. They had tried to write me out of existence, but here I was stronger than ever, with a beautiful daughter and a life built on my own terms. The memorial service was scheduled for Saturday afternoon. As I laid out my outfit, a deep blue dress that brought out my eyes, I couldn't help but appreciate the symbolism. They were trying to bury the old Olivia, but I wasn't that person anymore anyway. I was someone stronger, someone who had chosen love over fear, truth over appearance, and real family over false perfection. I looked at the invitation one more time, running my fingers over the embossed letters of my name. Soon, I would walk into my own funeral with my daughter in my arms, living proof that sometimes choosing your own path, no matter how difficult, leads to the most beautiful destinations. Little did my parents know, their perfect memorial service was about to become very, very memorable. Standing outside the funeral home, I adjusted Lily's white dress and took a deep breath. Through the windows, I could see people gathering, familiar faces from my old life, all dressed in black, here to mourn someone who wasn't actually dead. "Ready?" Emma whispered beside me, squeezing my hand. She looked elegant in her black dress, playing the part of a mourner perfectly. "As ought ever be," I replied, lifting Lily into my arms. "Remember the plan." Emma nodded. "I go in first, blend in with the crowd. You wait until your father starts his speech, then make your entrance." She grinned. "This is going to be epic." I watched her slip inside, then moved closer to the window. The room was filled with flowers, white lilies everywhere, my supposed favorite. In reality, I'd always preferred sunflowers. But that was just one more thing my parents had gotten wrong about me. A large portrait of me from my college graduation stood on an easel next to an empty urn. I almost didn't recognize myself in that photo. The perfectly styled hair, the forced smile, the weight of expectations in my eyes. I hugged Lily closer, grateful for how far I'd come from that version of myself. "Mama, why are there so many people?" Lily whispered, her small hand playing with my necklace. "They're here to see something special, baby," I told her, kissing her forehead. "Remember what we practiced?" She nodded solemnly. "I'm a surprise." Through the window, I watched my father take his place at the podium. My mother sat in the front row, dabbing at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. The performance had begun. "We gather here today," my father's voice carried clearly, "to finally lay our beloved daughter to rest. 3 years ago, we lost Olivia in a tragic accident." That was my cue. I shifted Lily to my hip, squared my shoulders, and walked to the entrance. The heavy doors opened silently as I stepped inside. "She was always the perfect daughter," my father continued, his voice thick with manufactured emotion. "Someone who understood the importance of family, of tradition, of—" "Sorry I'm late to my own funeral." My voice rang out clear and strong. Traffic was terrible. The reaction was immediate. Gasps echoed through the room. Someone dropped a glass. My mother's handkerchief fluttered to the floor as her hand flew to her mouth. My father froze mid-sentence, his face draining of color as he stared at me, or more specifically, at Lily, who chose that moment to wave cheerfully at the crowd. "Hi," she called out. "I'm Lily." The silence that followed was deafening. I walked slowly down the aisle, aware of every eye in the room on us. Emma, standing near the back, was barely containing her glee. "What is the meaning of this?" My father finally sputtered, gripping the podium so hard his knuckles turned white. "Well, I heard you were holding a memorial service for me," I said, my voice carrying clearly through the stunned silence. "I thought it would be rude not to attend, although I have to say the white lilies are a bit much. I always preferred sunflowers." "Olivia," my mother's voice was barely a whisper. She stood up, swaying slightly. "But how? How am I alive?" "Well, that's simple. I never died. You just wish I had." I shifted Lily in my arms. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet my daughter, Lily, the reason I was declared dead 3 years ago." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I recognized faces from my past, my parents' friends, colleagues, people who had sent me birthday cards and graduation gifts, all of them manipulated into believing I was dead. "This is inappropriate," my father announced, trying to regain control. "Please, everyone." "No, what's inappropriate is faking your daughter's death because you couldn't handle her making her own choices," I cut in. "What's inappropriate is lying to everyone here because you cared more about your reputation than your own grandchild." Lily, sensing the tension, wrapped her arms tighter around my neck. "Mama," she whispered, loud enough for the front rows to hear, "are these the mean people who made you sad?" More gasps. My mother sank back into her chair, her face ashen. My father looked like he might explode. You need to leave, he growled, stepping down from the podium. You're ruining everything. Ruining what, Dad? Your perfectly crafted lie? The story you told everyone about your tragic loss? I stood my ground as he approached. I think these people deserve to know the truth. That you didn't lose a daughter, you threw one away. Is this true, Henry? A voice called from the crowd. I recognized Mrs. Thompson, my mother's oldest friend. Did you lie about Olivia's death? The facade was crumbling. I could see it in my father's face, in the way my mother couldn't meet anyone's eyes. The perfect image they'd worked so hard to maintain was shattering around them. Look at her, I continued, addressing the room. Look at my daughter. The grandchild they never wanted to meet. The reason they erased me from their lives. Was she worth throwing away your daughter for? Lily, as if on cue, gave everyone her brightest smile, the same smile that lit up my world every morning. I saw several people in the crowd melt at the sight of her, while others looked at my parents with growing horror. I think, Emma spoke up from the back, this memorial service just turned into a celebration. Olivia isn't dead. She's thriving. And I, for one, am glad everyone finally knows the truth. I caught her eye and smiled. This was more than just crashing a funeral. It was reclaiming my narrative, exposing the lies, and showing everyone exactly what my parents had chosen to throw away. The perfect memorial service had become the perfect revelation, and there was no going back now. The next few minutes were a mess. People left in groups, some glaring at my parents, others hugging me and meeting Lily. Mrs. Thompson stayed, holding my hand with tears in her eyes. I always doubted the accident story, she said softly. You look amazing, dear, and your daughter is beautiful. My mother sat frozen while my father stood in the corner, angrily whispering into his phone. The memorial had fallen apart, but that was fine because the truth had finally come out. Mama, can we go home now? Lily asked, yawning. She was exhausted. Soon, baby, I said, then looked at my parents. I didn't come here to hurt you. I came because the truth mattered. You erased me instead of accepting my daughter. That's your choice to live with. My mother took a shaky step toward us. Olivia, wait, she whispered. She looks just like you did at that age. You wouldn't know, I said. You missed those years. By choice. As I turned to leave, my father's voice boomed. You had no right. We gave you everything and you threw it away for this? I snapped. No, Dad. You threw it away. You chose reputation over family. You missed her first steps, her first words. You missed being grandparents. Lily wiped away my tears. Don't cry, Mama. We have Emma and Mr. Whiskers. I laughed through my tears. You're right, baby. We have all the family we need. Emma took Lily from my arms. I'll get her in the car. I looked at my parents, my father, red with anger, and my mother, crying as she stared at the spot where Lily had stood. They looked smaller, less powerful than before. I'm not dead, I said. I'm happy. I have a daughter, a business, and people who love me. I didn't come for forgiveness. I came to show that choosing love over fear was the best decision I ever made. Please, my mother whispered. Don't go. Not again. I never left. You pushed me away. Until you accept both of us, nothing will change. I walked outside. Emma stood by the car, Lily already asleep. As I stepped away from that building, the past felt lighter. 3 days later, I got sunflowers. The card read, You always did prefer these. Mom. A week later, an email came from my father's private account. A picture of me at 3, holding a stuffed rabbit. The message, Lily looks just like you. I was wrong. They weren't grand gestures, just small cracks in the wall they had built. One evening, as Lily watered her little garden and herself, I had a realization. The daughter my parents wanted, the obedient one, was gone. In her place was someone stronger. Mama, look. Lily held up a tiny tomato. I made food. I scooped her up, laughing. Yes, baby, you made something beautiful grow. And so had I. Emma texted about brunch. Mr. Whiskers curled around my feet. This was my family, imperfect, chosen, but full of love. The memorial my parents planned turned into exactly what they feared. A goodbye to the daughter they wanted and the start of the woman I had become. Would they change? Maybe, maybe not, but I didn't need their approval anymore. Some endings don't tie things up neatly. They just open the door to new beginnings. And I had walked through that door on my own terms.